taxes!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 121 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, EJ, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie and Grace.
Hey guys.
Hi everyone.
Today we're talking about season 5, episode 2 of 911 Lone Star titled Trainwrecks. There is so much to talk about. This has been an interesting beginning to the season. And we're still in the middle of the 3-part season premiere. So we get started with this young kid who's driving, I think I missed from where, but somewhere in Texas. He's driving to Austin.
El Paso.
Okay, so it was El Paso.
He's in El Paso.
All right. Mm-hmm. So he's apparently going to school or something in El Paso, and we learn through a conversation with his brother on the phone. His brother's in the hospital in Austin waiting for a heart transplant, and he is on his way from El Paso to Austin and is talking to his brother, and he's like, I'm going to be taking care of you because apparently their mom has passed away or their parents are gone, and so it's just them. And the brother's like, are you sure? I really don't want you to, that it's a big ask to do that. And the brother's like, no, I'm going to do it. Then his car starts to break down, and so he kind of ignores the brother, and they get off the phone, and this kid has this wise idea to jump on the train that's crossing.
I was like, I literally saw the look in his eyes, and I was like, "Don't tell me you're gonna do what you think you're gonna do."
No. This is not hobo times. This is not Great Depression. No. We don't need to be doing that life. Come on,
right?
Call an Uber.
I was like, oh no, this is not gonna, because we obviously know that it's gonna be a train wreck. We're like, okay, this is not gonna end well.
Literal train wreck.
I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm just like, that is not a good idea. What are you doing?
Also, he's gonna get even if he did, even if the train wreck didn't happen, if he got caught,
it's a huge jail time.
And if he tried jumping from the train, I think historically a lot of people got devastating injuries jumping from trains, especially during the Great Depression times when people were jumping trains. I read something about that, and so I was just there if you try to jump off the train so they don't catch you, you're probably going to get really hurt, but if they catch you, that's not going to be great for you. I mean, I understand his desperation to get with his brother, but I was like, no.
All right, so then we see this little montage of him riding the train. He's different cars, I think there was a car with beer cases and all sorts of other stuff, and he ends up on top. He's like king of the world. He's totally enjoying himself, having a blast, and then he gets a call from the hospital to find out that his brother's surgery went well. And he's like, I'll be there, when he wakes up. And when the derailment part happens, he just gets thrashed around. And then we go to I think it was a day before the train wreck, or
the night before.
The night before. So it was like, oh, I keep going backwards. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, just get to it.
Yeah. I had that brief moment though when he was on top of the train and yelling. I was like, wait, someone's going to hear you. Are you supposed to be covert? Then I was like, it's a train. The engineer is not going to hear him.
Right. And then I saw the guy, and he's driving, and I'm like, why are they pointing out this one person? And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, this has got to come up later.
Every single person they ever show during the first emergency, I assume is going to be relevant. In some way.
I know.
And so I was just there okay, are we gonna make it out of here with both of these people alive? Because I really want both these people to make it out. Obviously we learn more about the guy in the car later, but I was like, oh, please don't do this.
Yeah. So flash backward a little to so we're at Tommy's house with Trevor and his daughter and Tommy's girls, and the girls are trying to do this new TikTok trend dance thing. And Tommy and Trevor somehow are supposed to jump in and start dancing, and then they're getting off, and the girls are like, okay, this is not working. And they're having fun. They're enjoying themselves. And #random, Tommy decides to propose to him.
I knew this was going to happen this season.
I was like, yes, girl.
I'm like, all for the women's, yay, go for, women doing the proposing. But
I was surprised.
Yeah, I was like, wow, they just kind of jumped right into that.
Yeah.
No build up.
Yeah, it was interesting. I wasn't super surprised, just because I feel like they were kind of setting this up at the end of last season and stuff when they were at Carlos's wedding, of course.
Yeah.
And I kind of had a feeling that this was going to happen at some point this season,
Right.
especially since I heard that I think Gina was the one that said there would be a wedding at the end of the season or at some point in the season. So I was just like, okay.
All right. Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
his response is, I would say yes, but there's something I need to talk to you about, or something like that. And I'm like, oh crap. And then they,
I'm like,
go to the next scene, and there's like no. I'm like, okay, we're gonna talk about this later. So then we're going right to Carlos bringing donuts to the 126, and I'm like,
love to see it.
love it. Like, and I think even Carlos like walks in and say, "Good morning, 126."
That was so cute.
I loved it.
Yeah. TK obviously greets him. I think there was Ronan had mentioned that like when TK kind of turned to look, he had mentioned like, yeah, that was definitely TK checking his husband.
Somebody like I forget what it was
"Is that
said,
Ronan?"
but I forget exactly what was said, but somebody was like, I could not believe. Oh no, it was somebody made an edit and it was like one of those, it was like that song that was like Dirty Mind. And I think I might have shared it on my story, but like, I'm like, okay, to be honest, like who wouldn't check out Carlos's ass?
Exactly. I
For
agree.
real. A much stronger man than TK, that's for sure.
And Paul asked, what the occasion was, Ranger Reyes. Carlos was like, I was just in the neighborhood. And some comments during like this kind of made me wonder. I'm like, how much have Carlos and TK seen of each other recently? Because like Carlos starts introducing what donuts he got, and then Paul takes the only cronut, and then Marge's like, I'm gonna take that. And then they start squabbling. And then TK makes this comment about, he's like, ignore them. They're in a dead heat to become the next lieutenant. And I was like, here's what I found. Wouldn't that be something you series again? I was like, wouldn't that be something you guys talk about at home? I don't know.
Yeah.
But then like Tommy comes up and grabs like 4 donuts, which is not her normal. And I was like, oh boy, okay.
I was like, okay, go up, girl, but like, are you good?
See, my brain goes to places because I'm like, why did she just take so many? I go, Tommy, is there something you need to tell us?
Right?
Like, I'm just assuming she's pregnant. I don't know.
Oh my god!
Right?
Like,
I
my
know.
brain just went to the deep end.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
you know what?
She definitely was breastfeeding for sure.
Yeah,
I was like,
what is
listen,
this?
I recognize the signs of comfort eating and all that. I get you, but girl, what happened?
And they were like, she was just like shoving.
Oh my
I
god!
was like, girl, breathe.
I was like,
breathe.
relatable, because yes.
And so everybody kind of looks at her, kind of thinking it's odd, but then they go back, and then Carlos asks like when the lieutenant thing will be announced, and Mateo's like, any minute now. And then Mateo makes a comment of about, he's like, says that only one who's been a lieutenant, because he was for brief time at the
I forgot about that.
I know
that storyline made no sense. Like literally, he never took a test, nothing. That was like so weird.
Right. And even Paul asked like why Mateo didn't put his hat in for it, and he's like, because it makes you be crazy like them. I was like, not wrong.
Could you imagine if we had all 3 of them to compete against each other? The only functional team on there would have been the paramedic team. The rest of them would have been trying out to each other.
Right.
I mean, the way things are going, you might as well just select Buttercup as the lieutenant.
Buttercup!
Also, second episode, no Buttercup. still waiting.
Pull up, like, come on, we need it.
Where's Ben?
Yeah, we've been in the firehouse quite a few times.
We haven't been in Owen's house yet, so I'm assuming that
I'm hoping.
Buttercup's there. Hoping. We gotta see him at least at some point. That's maybe my only gripe with Linstar as a general series, is that Buttercup has been such a wishy-washy presence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on. He's literally one of the favorite characters.
I don't know. I think I remember when hearing about like Buttercup's trainer or handler is like high demand for Lone Star and for other series. So I'm not surprised we're not seeing a lot of Buttercup, but yeah, I definitely want to see some explanation But it's also been 15 months. So sadly to say, they could say something about Buttercup's cancer coming back and them losing him or something, and I'm like, I don't want that to happen.
I would literally
Oh, no, no, no.
cry.
Yes, I would be so mad, so upset.
Yeah, we're not even putting that into the universe. Nope.
Right.
Nope. Decline.
So then we get this brief section where they're trying to ask Tommy if she's okay. And she's like, I don't know, she's not talking real well. And it's just interesting. And then Wyatt shows up. And he wants to talk to Owen. So it's like, okay. So he goes upstairs to Owen's office and basically tries to get Judd's job back for him.
Oh, bless him.
And Owen's like, well, Judd should have said something. And he's like, unfortunately, it's been a year and things have passed, and he's like, I can't let him come back. Or at least for the moment, he can't let him come back. And it makes sense. I mean, it's been a year. If it had been a couple of weeks or a couple of months, they could have probably justified it, but it's been 12 months. He'd have to go through all of the assessments and everything to come back. It would not just be a 5-minute, like, oh yeah, you're back. Like, he'd have to retest.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Then we get this really stupid call, honestly.
I hated this call.
This call sucked. They get this girl calling and like she can't talk because she's got a harmonica stuck in her mouth. Yeah. And of course they're like, it's some couple of girls and they're in a group, like singing group or something, and they're at some event, and then they're like, it's a TikTok trend to stick things in your mouth, and so they decide to do that, and then she's like, they don't have insurance, so they don't want to go to the hospital. And so Tommy has to, like, with jelly and all this stuff, they have to get this thing out. And then Tommy is like got this attitude going about everything that she knows of Trevor, and is not real happy with the whole TikTok trend. And so she starts ranting while this girl's filming this whole thing.
Which, like, to be fair, she wasn't wrong.
No, I don't disagree.
These, like, TikTok and its predecessors have been a pain in first responders' asses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when shit like the milk crate challenges were happening and people were fucking dying.
Yeah.
Or like the OG YouTube challenges. That's like pretty much where it originated.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
that's fair too.
Like the cinnamon challenge, like people were literally getting collapsed lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like
so
she's
others.
not wrong. It wasn't necessarily professional, but she's not wrong. And I do hope people keep that in mind. This shit happens.
It does. And I swear, like, the more social media things have coming out, sometimes I think we're losing our brain cells.
Oh, they done been lost.
Yeah.
They done been lost. I think.
So then we're back at the station. Mateo's with Owen. So Owen's like going through, like, he's rehearsing how to announce who he's going to pick. And then it's, I'm like, as he's talking, I'm like, he's totally talking to Mateo, isn't he? And sure enough, he pans out and it's Mateo. And it was funny because Owen is terrified. He doesn't know who to pick. Everything Paul and Marjan are doing, they're like hitting like within like tens of seconds with each other. There's no like gap. And they're good firefighters. Both of them are. So how do you pick? Because whichever one they don't pick could get mad and decide to leave the station because they got looked over. And I know that Owen's freaking out about that. So in the conversation, he's like, I'll just go by numbers, because they had to take the test and they had to get the results. And, so he was just going to go with whoever got the best test results. Yeah, of course you say that.
Of course.
Then we have Nancy and TK stalking the ambulance, and Tommy's there. She's still acting weird. She's slamming her phone down, and TK and Nancy are just like, okay, who's going to say something to her first?
Yeah.
And TK finally asks, he's like, okay, is everything okay? And she's like, why wouldn't it be? And TK's like, oh, well, never mind. She's like, no, go ahead, ask. And they're like, you've been acting weird all day. So then she admits that she's bringing her personal baggage to work, and that she shares that she proposed to Trevor. And they're like, kind of shocked, but congratulating her. And they're like, oh, wait, no, did he say no? And she's like, kind of, but there's a condition. I was like, oh my God. So then we flash back to Tommy and Trevor, and we find out that So I forgot about this, but Trevor moved from another state. And so
Mm.
the agreement with the divorce papers to allow him to bring the daughter with him to Texas, there was like stipulations in the divorce. And one of the divorce stipulations was that his ex-wife has to approve of any future person that he may choose to marry.
That is
Which
that's
that
something.
is
I have I have
no.
mixed feelings on it, honestly.
I do
In
too.
one sense, if you're like looking out for your child, I kind of get it. But like
Yes.
in another sense, it's kind of trolling.
It is, no matter which way you slice it, it is a power imbalance and it's manipulative, even if it is
Yeah.
well intentioned. I'm not going to say that, like, obviously, I don't even remember anything about his ex-wife. I don't remember anything. So I don't know what kind of person she was, like, if she's
Yeah.
doing this out of the goodness of her heart, or if she's doing it because she's a vindictive ex. Like, is she doing it because she cares about her daughter, or is she doing it because she's mad about the divorce kind of deal? Like, I don't know what that situation is. Regardless, you need to be careful about who you're bringing into your kid's life. So I get being wary about step parents, but it's still a nasty position to be put into.
Right.
Also, I don't think
Yeah.
we flashed back, did we? She just talked about it.
Well, we saw the end part of that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would also be more okay with it if that the roles were the same for both of them, which we
Yeah.
really don't know. Because
True.
that would be like, okay, that's fair if you both have to like
Right.
do that and stuff. I just love how like when they thought he said no, Nancy's like, "Oh, I gotta be like honest. Like I never like I always thought he was like out of your league, and I never wanted to
Oh,
say
I
anything." And I'm just like, "Girl."
like you were out of his league. Yeah, he wasn't good
Yeah.
enough for you. And I was like, girl, okay.
Right. Yeah, I'm really struggling with it only, well, like right now I've got in my head, like I have some friends that are going through a nasty divorce and it's not pretty. And there are kids involved. And so like even Tommy said, she's like, I get it for Melody, like Trevor's daughter, like the mom would be concerned about the daughter and who's being in her life. But the mother should not be able to dictate who her ex-husband marries, whether it's the child or not, involved. And then like even Tommy brought it up, like she doesn't want to put her own daughters through that drama because
But she
each
also wants
girl,
to meet the daughters.
yeah, she also wants to put the girls, and it's like, so what's in this divorce agreement? Like, is it just that she has to meet them? Is it that she has to, like, is there certain stipulations they have to meet? Like, we don't know what the criteria are. And I'm like, that's a little
Also,
much.
I just did a little refresh because I looked up Trevor's wiki page. I revoke everything I just said. She does not have a single right. She cheated on him with a member of their choir
I
back home.
forgot
I
about that.
forgot about that.
I
Okay,
thought
so she's a
I thought
controlling
it
bitch.
yeah, I'm like, bitch, you don't have a leg to stand on, and you should not even have any power to threaten taking your daughter back. You were
Look,
at
guys,
fault in the divorce.
I 100% agree. Anyone who
Mm.
lies or cheats in your marriage, you do not deserve a damn thing. You don't deserve custody of your kids. You don't deserve any rights. Sorry. That's part of this friendship's divorce. And I can't say any more
Yep.
about that, but oh my gosh,
Yeah.
100%. If there's
Also,
cheating
like,
involved,
That's
Also-
that's
also people
what I
brought
said.
this up so much online. They're like, okay, where was this mother when her daughter got her period? Like, whenever Tommy was
Yeah.
there?
oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Like,
She
Which
freaked out. Oh my God, my daughter had to learn from somebody else. Oh my God. Oh,
oh my gosh.
I
Like
can't wait till
listen,
we meet this bitch.
homes like this are rough. Like the situation when, when a child of the opposite sex of their parent is living with that particular parent, then they have to deal with that thing. I'm not gonna throw any parent under the roof who's not able to be there, like for whatever reason. So like, if taking the cheating out of the equation, if the mom just, divorced parents, Melody lived with her dad primarily, not really her fault that she wasn't there when the
right.
daughter got her period. That's not really her fault. But I have no forgiveness for cheaters.
I do not either.
And I was like, and that's why I looked it up because I had it in my head. I was like, wait, didn't she cheat? So I had to look up. I was right.
I'm
So
glad
I'm
you
like,
looked
nope,
it up because I totally forgot.
I forgot I forgot the details. So yeah, no, again, everything I said is revoked. She doesn't have a leg to stand on.
Agreed. Sorry. I fully
I
agree to
agree.
that.
Yeah.
And I agree with Tommy. Like, I don't want to put her daughters through that. They don't deserve to, and they don't need to.
Yeah.
And she, as a mama bear, can totally say, no, my kids are not going to be involved. And if that's the stipulation, then this relationship's not going to go anywhere. And
yeah.
So we don't know what's going to happen. But
as sad as it would be for that to happen, I don't think it is. But as sad as it would be for that to happen, that is absolutely an okay thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Tommy
that's
has to protect
what
her
happens.
daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
that's what happens when you have kids.
The girls have all three girls have gotten taller.
Oh my gosh.
Tommy's girls especially.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, damn.
I know, I was looking at the names of, when the scrolling, I was like, oh, okay, it's the same girls. So I was like, okay, did they get new girls, with the length of time? And I'm like, oh my God, they've sprouted like a lot.
Tommy and Charles were really tall, so I'm not even surprised. Like, in world, like, obviously, genetically, these girls are just they hit a growth spurt. But like in universe, I'm not even surprised because Tommy's tall as fuck. I think Charles was pretty tall. So yeah.
Yep.
Anyhow, yeah. So all that.
Yeah.
So much fun. Tommy's going through it.
Okay, yeah. So Tommy's going through it. So we're gonna leave that tangent because I'm afraid of us getting any further. And so now we're back to Owen actually talking to Marjan and Paul. And he's like, kind of gets through it. He's like, finally just says, I'm just gonna go at test scores. He's like, that's where it's gonna land because, and then of course, both Marjan and Paul get exactly the same 98.78% on the
which was a record breaker,
which is an all-time record for the LAFD. AFD.
Like, of course they did.
Yeah, literally.
The moment he said something about numbers, I knew exactly this was what was going to happen.
Me too. I was like, yep.
And of course, it's a competition because Marjan, like Paul's like thinking that he did worse, and he's like, I always like overthink these standardized tests, and then like Owen says a score, and Marjan's like, I thought I had the highest score. Well, yeah,
I forgot how competitive our girl is.
Yes.
So we end the
Love
scene
Marjan
out of choice because he's now had to, that's not able to be what he
at this point. Throw it to the chief.
Yeah, at this point. So our next scene is Judd doing he's backing up this semi truck into a spot, and he's doing it very like quickly. And the guy's like, well, he's like, it doesn't hurt to like get out and go check around. He's like, nah, I'm good. And he parks this like truck perfectly, and it's an interview for a trucking job, and it's an older guy, and it looks like it's like a mom and pop shop, trucking company. So there's a lot less like need for all the extra references and stuff. And, Judd's like, all my qualifications are up to date. My credentials are good. He's like, I can start, as soon as possible. And the guy's like, well, he's like, let's do a trial run. He's like, you can head to Tacoma. And I was like, yay, Tacoma was mentioned. But basically he wants him to do long haul trucking instead of local trucking, which is what Judd was hoping to do because he wanted to be able to be home for Charlie. And with, Grace gone right now, he didn't want to be gone too long. So he tries calling Owen to get some advice, but that doesn't work. So he ends up calling Wyatt, and they kind of talk it out. And he's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and I don't know, like Wyatt has to break the news to him that like he already tried to get his job back, and that's not an option because he literally talked to Owen that morning. And Judd's like, well, then I guess we're gonna, because they're like, well, Tommy will step up, Grace's parents will step up, in-laws will step up, Wyatt and his girlfriend will step up to help with Charlie when he's not there, and they'll figure it out. And I was like, no, Judd, don't need to figure anything out. You just need to go back to the AFD. Just like, I don't care, go in as a probie. I have a funny feeling he's coming back as a probie. I got this gut.
That would be so funny if he did.
Or he just goes back in and he's like, I've seen this happen in other shows where like somebody like something happens and then like they're just like demoted, but like it's nothing like extreme.
Yeah.
Because you were demoted, you just take the job or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like 50-50 on it because I don't know.
Yeah, I get where Judd's coming from. He had a very dangerous physical job. He went through a lot. He basically retired, did his thing to, take care of his son. So he had a good reason, but I don't think he truly thought that far out.
He didn't, for sure.
Because that was definitely like he was just thinking about it in the moment. So I kind of feel bad. I'm like, I just want Judd back. I just want the 126 back together for 5 minutes.
Literally.
For real. I mean, I will say I'm actually it's weird. I'm actually happy Owen had said no
Me too.
because
He's
it
right.
would not have been fair, especially with Judd having been gone that long.
Yeah.
Again, if it had been a couple weeks, maybe even a month or so,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's been about a year, and so I don't
Yeah.
know. I was really glad Owen didn't just hand it back to him, even though I don't really doubt that that's where we're going to wind up at some point. I just at this point I'm not sure how.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
you're right. And because he's right, like, because he even told, I think, Wyatt, a lot of good people, put in for this position, and I can't steal that from them just because your dad wants his job back. Yeah. So then we finally get to kind of the train part of the call. So we've got the dad on his phone in the car. You can see flowers. So he's apparently he's a florist or something. So he's delivering things for a wedding. And he's talking to his daughter, and apparently he's been missing a lot of her recitals and stuff. And so the kid that was on the train had been waving at a car, and this is the guy that was driving the car. And so we get his side, which is he's laughing about, oh, this guy that's sitting on top of the train. And
I love that he's not at all concerned about the fact that guys
I
just sitting on the
know.
train.
Like he's just like,
He's
oh,
just
normal
taking his turn.
things.
Okay.
and
He's like, oh, that's normal.
right. And unfortunately, as he gets to where he's going to deliver the flowers, and all of a sudden the train derails, and his car is crushed by one of the train cars. So we get the 126 showing up at the derailment, which looked like a bomb went off. I mean, it was terrible.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
was bad.
So Owen's asking, because they're first on scene, which means Owen's incident commander, and so he's asking Wyatt to figure out what was on the train, how many cars it was, how many people were on the train, what are they looking for, and they're we find out employee wise there's literally one engineer, and that's it,
Because they cut costs.
because the company was cutting costs. And they said that they'd gotten a call from a motorist and he was crushed, but they lost contact with him. And they also had gotten a call briefly from the engineer prior to, but they lost contact at a certain point, and then the train derailed. So they have no reason, no idea what happened. So they kind of end up finding the engineer. Dude choked on his sandwich.
I was like, you can't
Oh
make
my
this shit up.
gosh. Oh my god. And I'm just and you can see when when they eventually revived him, because it did take a little bit. It looked a little touch and go there. You could see in his face he was like, what the hell did I do, kind of deal. I'm like,
Yeah.
and imagine all of this happening because someone choked on a who can foresee that?
Right.
It's not even like he was doing something he shouldn't have been doing. He was just eating.
Yeah.
It just went down the wrong way.
I guess
Right.
that's why they say don't eat and drive. I mean, obviously, I know he's
True.
conducting the train.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's eminently more impactful than just a car.
Yeah,
I actually
exactly.
never heard
That's
the
true.
don't eat and drive, but now I've got that in mind.
Well,
I've heard that.
I'm obviously don't drink and drive, but
right. Well, and not
Yeah.
only that, if they were cutting costs, he didn't get a lunch break. He didn't get to
Yeah,
stop and
that's
take a
true.
break. So he's literally having to eat on the go.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see that devastation even in his face, because
Yeah.
they needed to get him because he knew what was on the train, and then he was able to kind of tell them what was on it, which is not good. Not some good stuff. I mean, so then they're starting to make this plan. They find the manifest. The train was carrying mostly, inert materials, soybeans, rebar, but there were some cars carrying some highly hazardous stuff, even pesticides,
Naturally.
chlorine gas, and toxic waste. I'm why is toxic waste being traveled on a train with other stuff? I don't know.
No.
That's just me. I thought that stuff
Clearly, again,
yeah.
they had to have been cutting costs. It had to be part of that.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So they're
yeah, for
asking
sure.
for
Just,
yeah. So they asked for
you know what I mean?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, you
Go
know
ahead.
what it just made me think of though? Remember the tractor trailer crash in 911 where Bobby had that radioactive scare? Because that company was transporting things incorrectly.
Yeah, through the city where they never should have gone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that just made me think of that.
Yep.
I said, oh wait.
And then that driver ended up being a whistleblower for the company. Yep. I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
So anyways, they asked for hazmat to be standing by. They also have a couple of, I guess, tankers with fuel or oil on them that are starting to catch on fire. So they need to keep them cool so it doesn't combust.
One had propane.
Yeah, propane. So they've got to get the hoses on it and, keep it cool so it doesn't, because it's one thing if it's just burning, but if it warms up, it can also explode. And, then their little tiny area is going to be twice as much or more. Plus it could
Highly
spread
volatile.
further around. So they finally are able to find the car that the guy was in, that we saw earlier, but unfortunately he is buried to a point they can't get to him. And Owen's like, oh well, I'll go in, but unfortunately he's too tall and too small. Like he's not small enough to get in there, so Mateo has to go in. So they give him some gear to do it, and they'd gone in with a camera, so they at least were able to confirm the guy was alive. And they were all concerned that it was too unstable to go under there, but Mateo's the only one that's small enough, which I think, wasn't there another time we had something where Mateo had to go in because he was smaller than some of them?
I don't remember what it was, but we definitely have had that before.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing.
I'm sure we have. It's like my thought when we saw that is like literally Lone Star, it's Mateo and 911, it's always Chim.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at this moment, we also have this reporter that's like getting way too close to the scene. And Owen's trying to get her to step back. And I'm like, this is basically just the Austen version of Taylor Kelly.
I had said that, and
I thought the same thing.
And I know somebody pointed this out like on Instagram, and they were like, okay, so this reporter was the lady in the beginning of the first in the premiere that was like the lady coming out of the woods that had like whatever happened.
Oh my god, is that who she is?
That it?
Yeah. The 911 TV news page posted it, and they were like, yeah, this is the same lady.
Oh gosh.
Oh my god. Okay.
Because she was too close to the explosion when the gas went off. All right.
Yeah, because they told her to pack up, and she like grabbed
She was like,
her
we're not doing that.
videographer, and I'm like, girl, if you're gonna take a risk, take it for yourself, sure. But like, you dragged the poor other guy in with you.
Yeah.
Come
and
on.
people kept being like, okay, Taylor Kelly just came to Lone Star, and I'm like, yeah, but she's not gonna date anybody. And then I'm like, oh wait, she is a little bit older. Owen.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm already seeing
I thought
it.
the same thing. I thought it too. And then I was like, oh no, they can't be, right? If they do, I'm gonna scream. We don't need this again.
Yeah, so then we see Marjan taking charge of putting out the fire of the big tanker. And she's even got the 129 captains there, and he's like, oh, you must be Lieutenant Marwani. And she's like, not yet.
I love the confidence.
I was like, how do they know? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's a list going around that's like, oh yeah, these are people taking the test.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm still torn as to who I think he should pick.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think I know my preference, but not because of anything against either of the characters. It's just simply watching how this emergency was handled. I think it should be Marjan because she slipped into that role so easily.
Right.
But also, Paul was also demonstrating some of the same things a little bit in the. So I'm like, neither is a bad choice. But right now, I'm looking. I'm like, I feel like it should be Marjan.
Right. So then we get back to Mateo and their kind of situation, and Owen's like, if you hear anything or get a bad vibe, he's like, get the hell out. And Mateo's like, I'll wiggle as fast as I can. And he's going down in this car that's got like barely any space, and so he at least is able to get in there and checks the guy over. He has a pulse. He's kind of coherent, but his legs hurt, so they're able to get the steering column off of him. But when they were able to get it off, he passes out. Then there's this little unicorn that was in the car that the guy's daughter had put in there. So we'll see that later. And Mateo then ends up having to do a procedure to reduce some fluid around the guy's heart because the steering column had actually held some of that fluid from going there. And when Mateo was able to cut it out, it opened up and the guy passed out. Yeah, He even put his head to the guy's chest. He's like, it sounds like it's underwater. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it would sound like when there's a fluid around the heart. But Tommy walks him through it, which is awesome. So Mateo did amazing. And
Oh yeah, he did pretty good.
like, I know that kid has gone through a ton of stuff in the last few seasons, and even like at the beginning, what did they call him, a repeat or a three-peat or something, because he'd gone through the academy and never passed so many times.
Yeah, I don't remember what they called him, but it was something along those lines.
So I'm just like, he's been through a lot, and he knows a lot as a firefighter. And I'm thinking, I was at this moment that I'm like, I think you might have a third person in the ring for lieutenant, and I don't think Owen realizes it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I thought it too, but at the same time, I would prefer it to be Paul or Marshawn because they have a lot more experience. They've both been firefighters a lot longer than Mateo has. I feel like Mateo's kind of like Buck in this way for me, where they will be contenders at one point. They're going to be amazing contenders to be lieutenants, captains at some point. I just want them to have a little bit longer. So that's just how I feel on it. And I did have some slight difficulty in this episode because I forgot that I really am not a big fan of Jules. So I had to bully that side away a little bit so I could appreciate Mateo. And I did. I was able to do it. And I was able to be like, oh wait, Mateo's doing great. But I forgot that I actually don't like Jules all that much, so I had to bat away this immediate reaction. So, but no, Mateo did great. And one again, I don't think it should be like now, but one day he's going to make an excellent, like, for real lieutenant.
Right, I agree.
And he's already making a damn good firefighter.
Yeah, I think him and Owen did have that conversation. Might have been in the last episode. I just might have forgot about it. Where Owen's like, "Yeah, you'll be a good one someday, but today's not that day."
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
So they end up getting the guy out of the car. Thankfully, the procedure work that Mateo was able to do, sticking a needle in the guy's like chest cavity to suck out fluid. Yeah, that he did that in the field. And and Mateo chases after the guy as they're like taking the guy over to the ambulance, and he gives him back the little unicorn that had been on his desk.
Oh, that was so cute.
Like, your daughter's gonna want this. And that was really a cute scene. And then we see Marjan with the team. They're really trying to put out the fire, but all of a sudden, the water runs out. Like, there's no water.
The moment that happened, my heart just sank.
Oh crap!
I was like,
I'm like, is there a kink? So they're checking the hoses. They're looking for kinks in line. Nothing. It's just there's no more water. And then obviously they're warning. It's like yelling, like get away. The tanker's heating up. It's and then they realize it's too late, and they start calling Mayday, and they're trying to get everybody out because the propane tanker is about to blow. And everyone's starting to get back. Marjan's trying to get everybody back, and then you see her go flying through the air as the explodes.
Because she was the last one there because she was making sure everyone got out. I was like,
which is good leader right there.
Good leader, but Marjan.
Yeah. And then like everyone else, like everyone kind of blew forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Or backward more like.
And that's pretty much the end of this episode.
I was just like, oh my God. When it ended. I was like, this is it.
Like huge.
I told you guys that I just squawked. What?
Yeah.
I was not ready for it to end. I was like, no, go back. No.
I was like,
thankfully this week I was actually able to watch it live, and so I kind of could tell by the time that it was, and I'm like, okay, this is coming to an end, but that is not how I expected this episode.
See, I was not paying attention at what time. Well, I don't have any clocks like in my room or anything.
Yeah.
Like I have my phone, but I was like using my phone and I didn't have the time displayed on it. So I was just like, what? This is it? It's done?
Right.
Oh my! So here's the thing. I have yet to watch 911 itself, as I told you guys, but I have been getting regularly spoiled for it. I don't mind. I don't care about getting spoiled for it. I have not been getting spoilers about Lone Star, like, at all, because that's not really coming up on my timeline at the moment, and I'm glad of it. But that meant I was not prepared for a single thing that happened.
Right.
I was like, what? All I heard, the only spoiler I knew was that Mateo was gonna have a big part because some post I said something about Mateo having a large part. That was literally it. I was not prepared for any. So I was just like, wait, and I forgot that the premieres always do this.
Yeah.
It's always a cliffhanger. So yeah. Oh, I loved this episode though. I
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah, I was telling the girls ahead of time, I kind of feel like the last 2 episodes have kind of gone a little slower than I expected. Or like, I don't know, it just the vibe was different to me for some reason. I don't know if it's just my like where I've been that I'm just like seeing it differently. Like, has anybody else noticed that? I don't know.
I've heard a couple of people say that, like, say that. I haven't felt that way. Like,
Yeah.
I
Right.
don't know. I know, like, there were some comments made, like, about things in general. Like, somebody was like, so I didn't know this until somebody told me this. People were like, they were complaining about the Tarlos scene, or the scene that Tarlos is in on Twitter. I'm like, what the heck did they have to complain about? And somebody's, I
gosh.
honestly don't even remember. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you guys.
Yeah, no, I'm loving the series. I'm glad that Lone Star's back. And I think a lot of it was to build up to the train derailment, and it's spreading it out into 3 episodes.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they were doing 3 episodes, because I was just like, oh, we're still doing this, okay. And I'm not
But you know what?
mad.
It works.
Yeah.
It does because and maybe this is where you're getting some of it from, AJ. Like again, as I told you guys off recording, like I also have not been feeling that same way. I've actually really enjoyed the premiere. I thought it was actually decently paced, but I think I wonder if maybe it was because like the first episode was doing so much catch up.
Yeah.
For
Could
a year's gap in between the seasons. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if maybe that's where you and like some other people are feeling
Possibly.
that from.
Yeah.
And I would be surprised because that would make a lot of sense actually. I just thought
Yeah. Well, especially for people like us who know the show really well, and like we pretty much remember exactly what happened at the end of last season. I will never forget Gabriel dying and TK and Carlos getting married.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Plus everything else that happened at the end of the season. So yeah, maybe it was a little bit of like seeing where they're at, and that was like, okay, can we just get on with the show and we can like figure the rest out? I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's possibly it.
But you know what? And maybe that's why it worked for me because there were actually some things I did forget. Because obviously, I did not forget about Gabriel dying. I did not forget about Tarlos' wedding or any of that.
Right.
But I forgot about some other stuff, and I wasn't sure whether my brain was faulty and some things hadn't quite happened yet. Like Owen's brother dying. I couldn't remember if that happened last season or if that happened during the jump. Like I couldn't remember that kind of stuff. So I did, and I for real forgot Tommy was in a relationship until this episode. Like when he showed up, I was like, oh right,
Oh, that's
Trevor.
right.
But like I didn't forget it and I forgot it ever happened. I just was not there until I saw him. I was like, oh right. And I was like, oh, they're so cute. But no, like so I think maybe I was a target audience that reminder was for. So maybe that's why
and I'm sure they have less storylines they're probably bringing in because they know it's the last season, and they're not like, they don't want to get something that's going to like span the whole episode, like season, and maybe not get wrapped up.
Yeah, that probably is it, which is actually very smart. Some shows will do that, and it's like, that's so annoying because then you have this new storyline that you have to wrap up, and it's just like, why don't you just focus on the things that like we know are happening, or like add smaller storylines and not like these big schemed ideas.
Yep.
It's like we don't have that luxury of time to begin a whole bunch of new storylines because we are in the last season. So, and I think they're being smart. And so far, they're not really starting those new seasons. Like, if they're starting a new storyline, it's a continuation. It's already like, for example, Tommy and Trevor. Like, yeah, that's sort of a storyline, but it's a continuation of their relationship already. It's not out of the blue. And it could feasibly be wrapped up in this season. So I think they're playing it smart, and I'm really glad about it.
Yeah, me too. I think it's wise, because then you don't want to get to the last like 5 episodes and be like, oh yeah, we have to resolve like 50 things.
Yeah, nope, that's never worked before. Won't work now.
Yeah, so I don't know. All in all, it was a good episode. Had a lot of good stuff, and then and then we've got next episode, which will be kind of the culmination of the season finale, which we'll talk about the promo in a minute. Do we have any fan thoughts?
Yeah, just one. Oh my God, suspenseful the whole way through, nail biting. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that pretty much summed it up actually, all in one.
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
a couple,
there you go.
yeah, there was a couple of moments where I was a little worried about Mateo there being underneath and like in such a small space.
I was like, oh, they could make something happen here.
Yeah.
They could.
So for the promo, we have Owen saying to dispatch that we have a problem. I'm surprised he didn't say, Austin, we have a problem. Just,
Yeah, just
We'll throw back.
yeah. And so we see the gas explosion in the air. Marjan says, "Yep, chlorine gas, because it's kind of greenish color, so it's not just your standard gas." Sarah, at the dispatch center, is like, "Think of this as this poison cloud as a cloud of death," and then says, "We're looking at the worst mass casualty event in the history of Texas because chlorine gas is toxic to anybody that it comes in contact with." And they talk about it. The premiere event continues and it'll leave you breathless. So they're playing on the stuff with the chlorine gas. We see TK running into a building, which I think is the school from the beginning of the episode, or the beginning of last episode.
Yeah, if all those kids are still there.
Yeah, and we see a lot of firefighters and other people down on the ground. Wyatt is saying to Tommy, like, "It's heading your direction. Why are you still there?" And they're like, "We're still looking for a missing victim."
I'm guessing they're looking for that kid, the one that was on top of the train. Because I'm wondering,
just because they're going in the woods,
right?
Oh, true.
Or both.
I am wondering about the kid that was on the train, because obviously we got no resolution. We just know he's still out there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And the way they played the storyline, I think he's gonna make it, but it's hard. They could also go for a really gut punching, like, death there too. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm so convinced there'll be a death at this episode, like this premiere. I don't know why I'm so convinced of that. Like, I just realized my brain is anticipating.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'm wrong.
Right. And then we see the gas getting closer to the school, and then we see it in the hallways, and then coming into the room that TK, Tommy, and Nancy are taking shelter in, and they realize there's no way out. And so Tommy is telling Wyatt on the call to tell his dad to take good care of her girls, because if anything happened to her, it would go to Judd and Grace. And we see, there's no way out, and Tommy, TK, and Nancy are kind of holding hands and closing their eyes, and you're like just waiting for things to happen. I'm like, oh my God, this is this promo. That is
what a promo.
Like, totally, like, oh my God. And then everyone's like, I hope we get a Tarlo's call or something. And
I know, people are like, what if TK calls Carlos?
Yeah,
like Carlos called TK before.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Because all three of them actually have someone to call or go back to. So yeah, what a promo.
Yeah. And I heard the other day that apparently the reason why ABC said no to Lone Star was because Fox was asking more money than they originally were going to ask for Lone Star, and that's
I did hear that.
And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But I'm not surprised. Yeah, because they're like, oh, they want it, so we're gonna raise the price. I was like, oh, seriously? Like, that's the game we're playing right now? Oh.
And like, at that, I don't blame ABC for not going for it.
Right.
But it's still like, oh, come on. It's also, is ABC the network that the new 911 is coming through?
That's what the talk is.
That's what I thought.
Brian Murphy is gonna have Doc Odyssey and 911, and then this possible new 911 spinoff on. So
I don't think this, I could be wrong. I'm not thinking that this particular spinoff that we're talking about is going to be the Tarlos bed.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so either. I would be surprised.
It's got to be a new city. Got to be a new city.
Well, the Tarlos thing was supposed to be a new city, but even then, I don't think it's that.
Yeah,
I'm
like a completely new cast, completely new city kind of deal. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That could totally backfire.
But yeah, so that's some news I heard recently, and I was just like, I want to mention it because I'm sure other people have heard it. But I don't know. I feel like I'm confident with the writers and the cast that it was wrapped up in a positive way. We're gonna have, not, I wouldn't say a nice little bow on it, but at least like storylines will be wrapped up, and we'll have answers if and when the show does finish, and not if it doesn't get picked up somewhere else, which I hope they do. But we're sticking around. I feel like we have to do a rewatch now.
Oh, for sure.
Like, give it a little breathing room. and
Yeah.
then like totally do like a rewatch
Oh,
and
yeah.
like talk.
Because, you know, we've been following this for 4 years now.
Yeah.
And I know I'm certainly not the same person that I was 4 years ago. So I'm definitely going to look at these seasons
Yeah.
differently and rewatch them. So I'm very interested to see what I think of certain things now that I know I had other opinions on, or
Right.
maybe didn't have an opinion on before. So yeah,
For sure.
I don't think we should do. I don't think we need to do like a one episode of our podcast per episode again. No, that's too much. But
No. We can do like
I
a
think
couple episodes or something. Yeah. It would just be fun to talk about it again. And yeah, you're right. We are different people than we were 4 years ago. So
I
yeah.
can't believe it was 4 years. Man,
Wow. Gosh.
coming up
Yeah.
on it.
Exciting.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on our website at 911lsroundup.com. You can also find us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at 911LS Roundup. And always, you can also join our Discord server to chat with us. And the description is on our website and in the description of this podcast.
You guys can follow me, Katie, at For the Love of Turtles on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RonanRafa911 on Instagram and at CheapGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Tumblr, pretty much everywhere. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.